Hello and welcome to today's webinar, Path to Chartership, Support Your Employees to Become CEnv or REnvP. Today we will be discussing how employers can support their employees on the path to chartership and the benefits that that brings to the business. My name is Lisa Poole and I'm the Membership Marketing Manager at IEMA. I'll be your host for today's session. We're joined by a couple of great speakers, Petya Georgieva and Jane Rogers. Petya is a principal environmental consultant who has been part of the EIA team at Arcadis for the last 8 years. Petya leads the Graduate Plus Forum for EIA specialists at Arcadis, which provides support to graduates, consultants and senior levels on their journey to chartership. She is PIEMA and has recently successfully submitted her application for IEMA full membership and Chartered Environmentalist. Jane Rogers is Head of Environmental Engineering Governance at BAE Systems Maritime Naval Ships and provides assurance for their products, but also works closely with the supply chain, the Ministry of Defence and other aerospace and defence organisations to improve understanding and application of product environmental sustainability. She became a Chartered Environmentalist in 2005 and gained Fellowship of IEMA in 2013. Jane takes pride in developing environmental professionals through written and personal guidance, presenting at regular forums, mentoring and delivery of training. She has been mentoring environmental practitioners for about 10 years and has also been a full member assessor in that time. Finally, we're joined by Phil Underwood, who is the Engagement Manager at the Society for the Environment, or SocEnv as it's known. He's here today to take any questions you might have about SocEnv or Chartership. I'd like to remind you that today's webinar is being recorded and that you'll be able to watch again on IEMA.net if you are an IEMA member or on the SocEnv website at a later date. Please do send in any questions that you have for the speakers throughout the presentation and we'll have time at the end to answer those for you and get into a bit of a discussion. But I will now switch over to Jane, who will talk through her work at BAE Systems Maritime Naval Ships. So Jane, welcome. I'm just going to make you the presenter. Hopefully this will work for you.
Yep, I think I've done that, Lisa.
Yep, all looks good to me. So welcome, Jane, and thanks for being here today.
Okay. Well, welcome to everyone. Hi all. Thanks for the introduction, Lisa. I've been at BAE Systems for about 12 years now. Prior to that, I worked in various companies providing environmental assessment and management consultancy for sectors that include manufacturing and residential and civil infrastructure developments. I graduated around 20 years ago, and in that time, I've seen a change in the role of the environmental professional. The focus of environmental management was primarily around compliance and the organisation's own operations in terms of energy, water and waste. And the scope of what we do now is towards corporate responsibility and sustainability and being able to provide robust evidence for any claims that are made. I'm going to focus on how environmental management applies to engineering design and how the route to chartership supports development of my team. So I want to start with a bit about BAE Systems so you can put into context why professional integrity is so important for me and why I use the route to chartership through IEMA. We're a global defence supplier with established positions in air, maritime and land domains and a growing presence in cyber security. Our principal markets are the US, the UK, Saudi Arabia and Australia, and we've got more than 87,000 employees in over 40 countries. Our sales in 2019 were over £20 billion, and we invest around £90 million annually in education and skills. All of our UK sites are certified to ISO 14001, and from 2015, the standard scope specifically includes products and supply chain. And so we have a product environmental engineering discipline with around 100 people in the UK. I sit within Maritime. Maritime is around 25% of our business, and we design and manufacture complex warships and submarines and provide in-service support to surface ships and the naval bases in the UK. We also design, manufacture and support naval gun systems, torpedoes, radars, and naval command and combat systems. As you can imagine, there's the whole range of environmental aspects across our products and service, from hotel services for crew on board, through power and propulsion, specialist materials in use to maintain hydrodynamic capability, and that of combat and force protection. We consider the impact on the marine environment, on air quality, and also resilience to climate change across the 25 to 50-year lifespan of the vessels. There are complex legislative requirements in the land and maritime domain that we need to meet, and the UK government commitment to meet carbon net zero by 2050 is placing further opportunity on us in design. With our export programmes, we have to meet customer and stakeholder environmental requirements relevant to our global operations. So my role as Head of Environmental Engineering Governance is to provide assurance to our engineering directors and customers that our products comply with all these differing requirements and are sustainable. We cover the whole value chain in design engineering, from designing platforms for minimise environmental impacts, setting environmental requirements for procurement of components and commodities, through build, test and commissioning on our sites, sea trials, in-service operations, maintenance and technology upgrade, through to planning for disposal. Something as simple as a paint scheme means considering procurement and legislation such as REACH and biocidal products regulations. We need to consider the build phase on our operational sites, as the paint process may impact on our environmental permits, impacting on air emissions and discharge consents. And then in disposal, we need to know where these hazardous substances are. So I need my environmental engineers to have a very broad knowledge of current and emerging trends, to engage the platform and system designers and the other stakeholders all the way through the life cycle. So for me, I see the route to chartership through practitioner level as a route to gain the broad and deep environmental and sustainability knowledge needed by environmental engineers across a wide range of topics across the whole life cycle. This includes the environmental science knowledge that's required to undertake robust environmental assessments and predict what environmental changes there will be, and assessing the resilience to impacts of climate change and scarcity of resources. This enables us to make design decisions to really future-proof our products. A deep understanding of policy, strategy and regulations is also required to enable us to effectively respond to consultations on matters that may impact us as an organisation or in delivery of our programmes. The membership levels also capture the key enablers required to be effective communicators and influencers, both within the projects, the business, and with the customers and suppliers. As environmentalists, the hardest part is gaining buy-in from others often, and we need the softer skills to drive that transformation. Chartership instills professional integrity that gives us credibility in our arguments for compliance and environmental resilience. The benefits, to me then, are the clear route to gaining the competence to deliver sound environmental practice that drives a more sustainable product. It allows us to state the ability of our environmental engineers in a recognised way and maybe a differentiator in business winning. Also, the environmentalists themselves are proud to be awarded chartership, and they get a midway point of being recognised as a capable practitioner. They're committed to professional integrity through adhering to the code of conduct and are able to identify the next challenging trend by the continuing professional development. Overall, chartership gives credibility to the profession as a whole and to individual environmental professionals. So how do we do this within Naval Ships? So we have a group-wide engineering capability development framework that has a whole range of engineering competencies within it. We're just developing the product environmental sustainability strand with the core competencies defined. This is going to pick up on the business level best practice that we have refined in Maritime Naval Ships in our capability toolset, which has got specific competencies ranging from environmental management planning to environmental assessment, regulated materials management, environmental legislation. And then each engineering role uniquely is scored for the required knowledge and experience across a whole range of competencies. so that we know exactly what we're looking for in a role and the profile of the person that can meet it. So the scoring goes from a level 1 for awareness through supervised practitioner, and then coach and mentor. All of our engineers are required to have an awareness of most topics, and the environmental engineers have differing levels of knowledge and experience according to the seniority of their role. Each of my environmental engineers scores themselves against the scale, and this then is discussed with my perception of where they are on the scale. Any gaps are then identified and a training program is developed for each. So the aim is ultimately for chartership to be attained by the time they reach principal engineer role, as they hold the lead for the environmental management program for a product engineering team. So any new hire into the business to be a business lead is immediately put onto a program to achieve the required level for the role that they're taking on. The professional development is by various mechanisms, with on-the-job learning around 70%, supported by in-house training packages, many of which are owned by me. Where these are relevant to environmental management, I align these to the competencies and syllabuses of the practitioner and chartership within SocEnv and within IEMA, covering the key terms and concepts that my team may not come across in their work or their previous experience, and the new things coming through. So, for example, the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, ecosystem services, circular economy, these are key terms they may not have come across otherwise, and also talk about the direct outside of their direct role, the key stakeholders, both inside the organisation and outside. BA Systems are corporate members of IEMA, just joined this year. So I'm looking to get some of our courses that we deliver internally validated and approved by IEMA in due course. We also use external courses, particularly those related to IEMA membership levels and other maritime and defence courses as well. On-the-job training is enhanced by learning and sharing across technical issues through our product environmental maritime community of practice. This meets quarterly, but enables all the environmental practitioners to know each other and to be able to pick up the phone with queries and to swap ideas. I undertake mentoring for chartership, both inside and outside of BA Systems, with those looking to develop their career in product environment, helping them to understand the criteria and to identify projects and activities that they've been involved in which they display the necessary competencies, and also to give them opportunity to gain experience if they're lacking in an area. The softer skills are often picked up in our core company leadership programs available to all within BA Systems. So what advice would I give to managers on the same path, looking to broaden and deepen the competency of their environmental practitioners? Firstly, do not limit the knowledge base too narrowly to the role and the individual's direct employment activities. Think about the whole value chain, upstream and downstream, that may influence or be influenced by the direct decisions or activities of the bits that are going to be working on. You want them to be well-rounded professionals, able to identify indirect impacts and legislative constraints, and also to be interested enough to keep learning. Recognise that soft skills support effective delivery. I really do see the role of the environmental professional as an influencer. It's not usually an environmental person who has the budget or authority to transform the business or the project. Use the skills map to plan training requirements and keep looking at it. The skills map does change, as does the detail in the competency criteria. Looking at this regularly keeps me on my toes, as well as developing my training, and directs me to keep up with the new ideas and practices and the new terminologies and new themes coming through. So ensure that your training includes the key terms and models as they emerge. Practitioner level is a good stepping stone. The IEMA course gives the broad knowledge required and also gets individuals to reflect on their achievements so far. So writing case studies for that helps them put things into the perspective of the environment instead of organisational benefit, and think about how they would approach things differently next time for a better outcome. This can be the basis for bite-sized training delivered by them or an in-house lecture, which gives them presentation skills as well and embeds it across the organisation, the learn that's been had. I think this helps, as we often lose the ability to talk fluently in terms of environment once we're embedded in an organisation whose primary function is not environmental consultancy or practice. So I also like to have fireside chats with my mentees to do just that. Recently, we've asked them to talk about how mod net zero ambition will impact on what they're doing and outside what they're doing, COVID-19 recovery, Brexit. This is to ensure they can talk confidently about the wider sustainability issues. Lastly, I want to say that I get a lot out of the mentoring too. I hear about current technical issues, I hear about more stakeholders, new tools and practices, and because it's usually earlier career people, I hear a lot of Netflix and YouTube sustainability resources too. So my advice is to get involved in your team's development. You'll learn a lot with it. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you, Jane. That was really helpful. If you have got any questions for Jane, please do type them into the box, and we'll come to Jane at the end. I'm going to switch over to Petya now, who's going to talk about how she does that in Arcadis. So Petya, you should see a notification to display your screen. Perfect.
Yeah. Okay, can you all see? Can you hear me?
I can see and hear you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, thank you. Hello, everyone. First of all, thank you for the opportunity.
So I don't know if you've made that full screen yet.
I have. Is that okay now?
That looks great.
Okay, thank you. Yep, hello everyone. First of all, thank you for the opportunity to share with you what we do in Arcadis to support our employees on their route to chartership. I would like to cover today a few key points. The first one is I will introduce Arcadis as a company, and then explain a little bit about my role in the company that relates to supporting our staff to become chartered. And then I will explain briefly what the main value is for us to have as many chartered environmentalists as possible. And then I would like to share with you how we support our employees, and similarly to Jane, just a few sort of like, pieces of advice to managers of what to maybe think about, what to look for, and just a few lessons learned perhaps. So if we start with introducing Arcadis very briefly, we are 27,000 people in over 70 countries. In the UK, the environment and planning team has over 200 specialists. They are EIA specialists, noise, air quality, ecologists, cultural heritage specialists, and they form part of the environment and planning team. As a company, one of the core values for Arcadis is that we put people first. And what this means is that it is very important for us to create a safe and respectful environment where people can grow, perform, and succeed. We would like to create as many opportunities as possible for people to stretch and develop their careers, and to give them opportunity to also showcase their skills that they have developed. We work closely with IEMA, We also work closely with the Royal Institution of Chartered Surveyors and the Association of Project Managers. The reason why we work closely is because we very much want to align to the approach of these organizations to best practice, and we would like to align, the competencies and the technical knowledge, expertise to the skills and the competencies within these organizations. In terms of my role within Arcadis is, as Lisa mentioned earlier, I'm a principal environmental consultant, part of the environmental impact assessment team. Currently, I'm a practitioner with IEMA and have recently submitted my application for a full membership in Chartered Environmentalist. I am leading within Arcadis the Graduate Plus Forum, which I will touch upon a bit later on. But in summary, this is a forum that we created for graduate, consultant, and senior levels to support them in their route to chartership as much as possible, to give them a platform to share knowledge and to discuss various environmental topics and to prepare in the best possible way for this milestone of getting chartered. As part of my role, I provide support to the head of capability within Arcadis when it comes to building strategy, developing capabilities, developing skills, aligning skills, so that the support is there on a daily basis for our employees. In terms of what value do we gain by employing chartered environmentalists, I've sort of put a few bullet points here to explain where we see the value. It does enhance the reputation of the company as a whole and the technical credibility with our clients. We are a client-facing business, so we're standing out to clients when bidding for work by demonstrating that we've got a wide breadth of knowledge and we've got an experienced staff is very important for us. But having a really good selection of highly experienced people makes us more attractive to new talent, and it has a positive impact on recruitment and retention of staff as well. It shows a commitment to staff, to support them, to help them develop, to help them grow in their careers. But one other aspect of it is that within Arcadis' vision, sustainability plays a key role, and we're very much committed to improving quality of life through our daily work on projects. So having really experienced people that have a wide range of competencies helps us implement and achieve success against our vision. How do we support our staff? We have developed an Arcadis mentoring exchange platform. Mentoring is very important for us because mentoring is one of the key supporting mechanisms to encourage our employees to be there for them, when they have questions or when they need support on their route of development. And when I say this, I don't really mean this only for obtaining chartership, but also to upgrade their membership from a graduate level to a practitioner level and so on. So the Arcadis Mentoring Exchange program has been specifically built for online access, and that wasn't done because of the pandemic. It was something that we developed prior to the pandemic, but in the conditions of pandemic, it's even like, you know, more becomes more and more relevant. The system uses experiences and skills and preferences to match individuals across the business and to help them engage in this mentor and mentee relationship. Once they're matched on the system, it enables these relationships to be managed privately, either face-to-face or virtually. Virtually, like more recently. The participants in the program have access to multiple virtual learning content, which is regularly reviewed and updated. But you know, there are other things that we also do on a daily basis to support our staff, and you know, I've selected a few sort of bullet points here to give examples of how we support them. We encourage our staff to start thinking about the competencies that they need to develop by preparing a gap analysis. And you know, preparing this gap analysis kind of focuses them on the competencies that they would like to develop and they need to develop, either through like engaging in specific projects or engaging in specific roles within the EIA team. We encourage our staff also to sign up to the IEMA mentoring program, which I found really useful, and I would encourage everyone to sign up to this program because it does help. Like internal mentoring is very good, but it does help to get another perspective, and having someone to review your application that is quite experienced and is aware of what the process is about is very useful. We organize specific route to environmental chartership workshops where we try to provide really practical advice of how to approach the application, how to go about in terms of identifying the gaps in the competencies when you do your gap analysis, how to approach your personal statement, and these have been found really useful by our employees. We also encourage our staff to align the yearly goals when they start setting up the goals each year, to align the yearly goals with the IEMA competencies. So, you know, this goes hand in hand with the gap analysis. If there is a competencies that they have found that it requires more development, to start thinking about, you know, having a goal around this competency and start thinking about, you know, different tasks that they can take on to develop this competency. In order to make sure that, you know, they are fully supported in their journey, we have regular touch points to check progress towards meeting their goals and towards the application for chartership. The Graduate Plus Forum, as I said, is a platform for graduates, consultants, senior grades to share experience and lessons learned. It is important to have a forum where people can talk about their experiences and can share, you know, their kind of like, you know, tips and share things about like articles that they've read, things that they have sort of like, you know, come across as part of their professional development. We also encourage our employees to take part in webinars and presentations that develops their skills further. It helps them to develop their presentational skills prior to their interview for chartership. As part of the Arcadis policy to support our employees, we also provide a monetary incentive for anyone who becomes chartered. And the last sort of like slide that I prepared is a few bullet points around advice to managers. It is very important to encourage staff and facilitate working across various sectors and on different projects in order to obtain relevant experience and in order to give them opportunity to develop different competencies. As Jane mentioned earlier, it's very useful to keep up to date with the requirements and the of the application process for membership upgrades. Things change. This is the most normal thing. Like, you know, that they changed maybe a few years ago. There was an exam for a practitioner level. Now it's the format could change. So it's very important to keep up to date with the requirements and the application process for each level for membership upgrade in order to provide sufficient advice to the employees. Improving mentoring skills through training is also something really important. Aligning competencies as well to each grade within the company is something that helps. It helps to have these, like, you know, these skills and competencies aligned with the IEMA membership levels. It is also very important to talk about chartership and to promote chartership and to promote the benefits of becoming chartered within the community of practice. We have an EIA community of practice within Arcadis, and talking about this and having on the radar is something quite important, you know, to make sure that everyone has sufficient information about it, and, you know, it has sufficient support for it. And the last thing that I'm going to say is that it's very important to recognize the success for professional development, and becoming chartered is a very important milestone in everyone's career. So recognizing the achievement of becoming chartered is quite important. And that's all from me, Lisa.
Lovely. Thank you, Petra. And thanks again, Jane, for both of your presentations. I think they were really useful, and we have got some questions coming in now. So what I'll do is I'll have a quick look through these, and then I'll share them with you. So if you're kind of ready to unmute, there's one here for you, Petra, which I think would follow on nicely from what you were just talking about. Jenny has asked, do you match your mentor-mentee by shared experience, skills and preferences, or do you match a mentor's experience to fill identified gaps in the mentee's experience? Do you have any kind of tips on how you would link mentors with mentees?
Yes, so the mentee is the one that basically would fill in the piece of advice and the area where they would like a bit more support. So this is that they would identify the areas of knowledge or support that they're seeking for, and then that goes into the system, and sort of like, you know, anyone that's got like similar experience or similar skills or anything that matches that request, then they get matched as a mentor-mentee and they get in touch to start talking. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, Jenny says thanks on here. Jane, do you have anything to add about matching mentors with mentees? I mean, mentorship's something you spoke about as well.
Yeah, we have a BA Systems mentoring scheme that does that, and that tends to be across discipline. So it could be anywhere in the organisation, any of the business units, and that is very much be a different sector, different discipline. In the general BA Systems mentoring scheme. When it comes to the environmental mentoring, we're in the engineering world, we are quite few across the organisation. So it is very much who are the senior people who are able to do that and have the time to do it. But yeah, I would recommend within the same discipline, certainly within my organisation, or within the same domain, to enable them to gain the knowledge and have opportunities to experience within the domain that they're working in currently.
Brilliant, thank you. So yeah, that's two slightly different examples there of how you could use mentoring. So I think it just kind of depends on your organisation and the graduates you have. We've got another question here from James, who asks, are there examples of chartered civil engineers, so CEnv, upskilling and applying for CEnv? Are the similarities between the two charterships transferable enough to allow a graduate civil engineer on leaving university to develop a plan towards achieving both CEnv and CEnv? I'm not sure who would like to kind of take that one first, if there's anyone who has any experience of working with chartered civil engineers and chartered environmentalists.
I could contribute a bit there if you want.
Brilliant.
So within my organisation, there have been several engineers who've shown an interest in the environment and then have moved over to environmental engineering and have moved route and gone up to Chartered Environmentalist. I also support people who are going for engineering chartership to understand how sustainability impacts on engineering, because that's one of the criteria for engineering chartership as well. So there is a crossover. Obviously, there's more learning if they want to come to into the environmental engineering world. But I think there's quite a few who've gone into engineering initially. Once they understand about the environment, and there's so much that people understand naturally now, that they are keen to actually do their bit and apply the environmental engineering into it. Yeah, I moved to Chartership.
I could probably add to that if that's okay, Lisa.
Yeah, go for it, Phil.
So from a SocEnv point of view, we have a number of licensed members, 24 of those, and specific to this question, one of those is the Institution of Civil Engineers. So if you were going through the Chartered Environmentalist route via the ICE, then generally speaking, you do need to be a chartered engineer to start off with. And we know that there are a good few hundred members who've gone down that route and become chartered environmentalists as well. So in terms of, are there examples of them who've gone through CEnv and CEnv? Yes, there certainly is. In terms of the transferable competencies, certainly the soft skills of both of the competencies with CEnv and CEnv have similarities and transferable competencies between the two. And as Jane mentioned there are other competencies that are also transferable. So yes.
Fabulous, thanks, Phil. Just got another question here. So both of you explained that you have programs for supporting people. How do you get buy-in for implementing these professional development frameworks? Is there someone, or does the business put resource into this, or is it something that you're kind of left to develop and then progress on your own? Petya, we'll start with you.
Yes, so the business very much recognizes that developing that people are the best asset of the company. With Arcadis, as I said, we are very much client-facing company, and our people are our asset. The business is very much driving the development of the Graduate Plus Forum, for example, and the mentoring scheme, because it recognizes that this is absolute key for people to feel fulfilled within their roles, for people to have a recognition about their own professional development. So from an Arcadis perspective, this is very much driven by the leadership team, and it's very much supported by the leadership team in terms of providing, time and resources to support these platforms.
Great. Did anyone else have anything to add to that?
I agree with everything that Petya just said. So within BA Systems, very strong towards capability and competence and maintaining that pool of skilled people. And if the question was more, is environmental given the same credence as the other disciplines, I think in BA Systems the answer is yes. So it's just given exactly the same credence as the other engineering disciplines. Yeah, and fully supported by the business. Obviously, within my role, I kind of define some of the things that go into it, but within the engineering capability development framework, I have the opportunity to influence or direct actually what environmental training is required for an engineering population.
Excellent. I don't think we have any other questions unless anyone would like to submit one quickly. So what we might do is kind of wrap that up there. Petya or Jane, do you have just anything to add at the end before I kind of move on to the closing slides?
No, happy to support
Lovely.
Chartership.
Brilliant. I think if anyone has any other questions after this, feel free to email myself and I can speak to Petya and Jane as well after this session. But thank you for joining us today, and thank you again for your presentations. I think they were really, really useful and has given a lot of people things to think about in terms of developing their Chartered Environmentalists. Just a quick reminder that we do have 2 more webinars in this series. So next week we're going to be hearing from Chartered Environmentalists and what it's like to be a CEnv and how that kind of contributes to the work that they do. And then the final webinar in the session is going to be exploring the global reach of Chartered Environmentalists. So we're going to have some of our members from in different countries talking about what it means to be CEnv in those countries. But thank you again for joining us today, and thanks to our brilliant speakers and to Phil for coming on and helping answer some of your questions. Like I said, you'll be able to access the slides and the recordings again. But other than that, I'd like to say thank you very much, and I hope you all have a brilliant week and hopefully see you all again next week. So thanks again to the speakers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.